2021 will be a huge year for the whole gaming laptop industry. Normally, component vendors such as Intel, AMD, and Nvidia will take turns to upgrade their product roadmaps. This year is very unique as all three companies released new products at the same time. While some brands chose to upgrade to new internals using existing chassis, ASUS went out and brought completely new designs to their entire gaming notebook lineup. At this year's CES, ASUS presented the new ROG STRIX family with refreshed internals as well as exterior. Last year, ASUS only offered Intel solutions in their high-end gaming laptops. This year, the tables have turned. With an all-AMD exclusive lineup, ASUS is offering gamers the best of two worlds, AMD CPUs paired with high-end Nvidia graphics. The laptop I am reviewing today is the ASUS ROG STRIX G17. Last year I reviewed the 15-inch version, and it was a very popular model. This year, ASUS completely revamped the STRIX family. The 17-inch ROG STRIX G17 has now 5% smaller footprint compared to last year's model. The weight is reduced to just 2.7 kilos, or just 5.9 pounds for configurations containing the high-end RTX graphics. The brushed hairline design that could be found on last year's model has now been replaced by a diagonal line that goes across the lid. Taking a closer look, we can see that the pattern is made up from letters of the company's brand name, ROG. The plastic lid from last year has now been replaced by a metal lid that feels more solid and cold to the touch. In the corner we can see this new design element that didn't exist on last year's model. It is essentially a plastic part that serves as additional design element. The light bar has also been redesigned from last year. They still cover three sides, but doesn't go all the way around the edges like last year's model. There are two color options for the 17-inch Strix. There is a classic black version, and also an Eclipse gray color option. Overall, I think this new 2021 design is aesthetically pleasing and brings a new modern look to the Strix family. The ROG Strix line of laptops has long been known for its excellent build quality. Last year's Strix G17 had an all-plastics build, and the laptop was built like a tank. This year, Team ROG has upgraded to a metal lid, while the main body is still made out of plastics. In my opinion, this is one of the best built gaming laptops out there, regardless of materials used. Since last year, ASUS has been using liquid metal compound directly on the CPU. Together with the new thermal design, the company is claiming that this will reduce CPU temperature by up to 16 degrees Celsius. Last year, I praised the STRIX G15 to have one of the best keyboards of any brand. This year, ASUS has largely kept the keyboard design. The keys are now more stiff, with each keystroke having a more tactile feeling. It feels like the travel distance has been reduced ever so slightly, and the new keyboard reminds me of the HP Omen 15's keyboard. I am getting more typos with this keyboard, and I am not able to type as fast compared to last year's edition. This could be a preference thing, and I might get used to it over time, but right now, I still prefer last year's slightly softer keys. What has not changed are the arrow keys. They are still the same size as last year, which means they are too small for my liking. I really hope that ASUS can address this in the next iteration, as this is a very small change, but can have a big impact on the overall user experience. Depending on the specific configuration, the STRIX G17 comes with either a 4-zone RGB backlit keyboard, or the individual per-key lit RGB keyboard. Speakers on the STRIX G17 are bottom-firing. The sound quality is about average for a gaming laptop. This is what the speakers sound like when playing games.
A soldier's life is all I've had the honor to know. would have liked to have gone fishing with my son. No. Let us meet on fate, shall we? Spartans! Every breath that you have taken has led you to this moment. Every drop of blood, sweat, and tear, all of it has led to where you stand right now. The Persians come to make slaves of us all. I have a better idea. I say we drench the gods with their blood! What say you, Spartans? For our sons! For our daughters! For Sparta!
Gaming laptops usually has a built-in software that is used to tweak different settings. In this case, it is the ASUS Armoury Crate App. One of the most useful settings will be the fan control profile. You can toggle between silent, performance, or turbo mode. In silent mode, the laptop is almost completely silent and the system is optimized for energy saving and battery life, while reducing CPU and GPU performance. Turbo mode is the complete opposite, where the system is boosting CPU and GPU performance as well as maximizing cooling. The performance mode is somewhere in between the two extremes. There is also a manual mode, where you can set your own CPU and GPU profiles. In the home page, you can also see the CPU and GPU stats, such as frequency, usage, and temperature. You can also check how much memory your system is currently using, and how much storage you have left. If you want to see all this information as a graphical representation, you can head over to Device, and then System, click on the Resource Monitor tab, and you will see everything drawn as a function of time. The Lighting tab will take you to the RGB keyboard settings. Static will just show one single color across the whole keyboard, as well as the light bar. You may change to a different color than red, but it will still only show one color at a time. Breathing will simulate the effects of a breath. If you choose a second color, it will transition to that color, and you may also alter the speed of that transition. Strobing does what the name suggests, a pretty annoying profile in my opinion. Luckily, there are many other options such as color cycle, rainbow, and my personal favorite, rain. Game visual is a pretty useful feature as well. It basically changes the white balance of your screen to adapt to the scenery or the type of game you are currently playing. The eye care feature seems to be the most useful, as it will boost the warm colors and reduce the amount of blue light that can be harmful to your eyes during nighttime. There are more features in the app, such as a game store where you can make purchases, but we are not going to go through everything as I will only cover the most important features. Just like last year, the STRIX G laptop comes in a 15 and a 17-inch form factor. They share the same design language and number of ports. If the graphics card is the same, the thermal cooling system should also be identical between the 15 and 17-inch version. There is an incredible amount of possible configurations on the STRIX gaming laptop. For the same 17-inch laptop, you can choose between an AMD processor from last year, or choose the new Cezanne platform. The 5000 series mobile processors from AMD can be spec'd up to an R9-5900HX for the top-end model. On the graphics side, there is of course the new Nvidia RTX 3000 series mobile graphics card, the RTX 3060 and RTX 3070. Both the 3060 and 3070 are 115-watt parts, and supports Nvidia Dynamic Boost technology, which means that when the CPU isn't fully utilized, another 15 watts can be moved to boost the GPU performance, making it a total of 130 watts. For the lower graphics card tier, ASUS is currently shipping the GTX 1650 configuration, and it is very possible that they will add new graphics card options when Nvidia refreshes their entry to mid-tier lineup. RAM will be the same across the board for all G713 series laptops. ASUS uses DDR4, 3200 MHz RAM across the board with various configurations up to 32 GB in a dual-channel setup for maximum performance. As for storage, this is one area where ASUS has actually made a downgrade compared to last year's Strix models. Last year, it was possible to store up to 3 NVMe SSDs inside a Strix gaming laptop. This year, it has been reduced to just 2. However, as prices of SSD storage typically becomes cheaper over time, and the capacity grows bigger for each year, I don't see this as a major problem if you intend to keep the laptop for the next 3 to 5 years. Moving into panel options, this is one area where I see the biggest potential upgrades this year. Gaming laptops have long been relying on full HD panels, while the refresh rate of these panels have been increasing each year. This is because the increase of resolution in PC gaming typically comes at a cost of frame rates. With the RTX 3000 series of laptops, we are starting to see enough power that can sustain 1440p gaming, with a FPS that is actually enjoyable. This year, ASUS is offering 3 different panel options with the STRIX G17. There are 2 1080p Full HD panel options. The difference between these are refresh rate and color gamut. The cheapest IPS panel comes with a 144 Hz refresh rate and 250 nits of peak brightness. This panel has the lowest color gamut amongst the 3 panels and covers 63% sRGB as well as 47% Adobe RGB color gamut. Response time is rated at around 25 milliseconds. The 300 Hz panel has a response time of just 3 milliseconds and is brighter than the 144 Hz panel at 300 nits. This makes it perfect for esports games such as CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, or games like Apex Legends and Fortnite. The 300 Hz panel supports 75% sRGB and 100% Adobe RGB color space. The third panel option is also the most exciting in my opinion. It has a WQHD resolution of 2560 by 1440p and a fast refresh rate of 165 Hz. Really what you are getting here is the best from both worlds. This 165 Hz panel covers 100% DCI-P3 and has a response time of just 3 milliseconds. All 3 displays are matte IPS panels with anti-glare treatment. This is excellent for gaming as it doesn't produce any annoying reflections. For wireless, it supports Bluetooth 5.1 as well as Wi-Fi 6, making this device future-proof for many years to come. The unit I am testing has the top-end AMD Ryzen R9-5900HX processor. This is an 8-core, 16-threaded CPU, the most powerful mobile chipset from AMD in this generation. It also has the new Nvidia RTX 3070 graphics card with Dynamic Boost technology and 8 GB of dedicated DDR6 video RAM. 32 GB of DDR4 memories in dual channel, and 1 TB of SSD. My unit has the 1440p panel. I tested the laptop with various versions of Cinebench, including the newest release of Cinebench R23. In Cinebencher 15, single-core score was 241 and multi-core scored 2218. This is the highest score I have seen so far for any mobile laptop CPU. In Cinebencher 20, I recorded a single-core score of 577 and multi-core score of 5147. Cinebencher 23 is the newest release, and here I observed single-core score of close to 1500 and multi-core score of above 13,000. Moving on to gaming results. Here I tested all games in ultra settings, with VSync disabled. I ran the built-in benchmark at both 1080p and 1440p. You may pause the video to see the difference between the two resolutions. Assassin's Creed Odyssey in ultra settings rendered 72 frames per second at 1080p, around 9% faster compared to last year's RTX 2070 Super with an Intel i7 processor. Running the same benchmark again in 1440p gave me 59 frames per second. Batman Arkham Knight in ultra settings yielded 92 frames per second at 1080p, the same result that the 2070 Super card got last year. In 1440p the frame rates dropped to 72 frames per second. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided at ultra settings hit 97 frames per second at 1080p, roughly 13% increase over the 2070 Super. 1440p managed to hit 70 frames per second. F1 2018, this fantastic racing game, hit 147 frames per second in ultra settings at 1080p. At 1440p the game maintained a very respectable 131 frames per second. Far Cry 5 scored 113 frames per second in average at 1080p, again not a huge difference compared to the 2070 Super. And 97 frames per second in 1440p. Shadow of the Tomb Raider managed to hit 108 frames per second at 1080p. This translates to a 7% gain over the 2070 Super from last generation. At 1440p, I got 78 frames per second. Total War 3 Kingdoms scored 80 frames per second in ultra settings at 1080p, compared to 73 frames per second with RTX 2070, a 10% increase in performance. At 1440p, the result was 56 frames per second. Averaged out across all games, the increase was around 4%. The 2070 Super was already an excellent video card for 1080p gaming, so if you recently bought a 2070 Super at end of last year, you shouldn't be too sad about it. The limited space within a tiny laptop cannot be compared to the power from a full-blown desktop counterpart, as thermals and noise level needs to be taken into consideration. However, if you are considering a brand new RTX laptop right now, I'd recommend that you get the 3000 series, as this result shows that we are starting to approach 1440p gaming while achieving acceptable frame rates in most games. If you are planning to get a 1440p laptop, my recommendation would be that you select the 17-inch option, as 1440p on a 15-inch is borderline to become too small to see clearly. I can't tell the difference between 144 Hz versus a 240 Hz panel when it comes to refresh rate. However, I certainly enjoy the higher resolution and the clarity that a 1440p panel gives me while playing the latest titles. It just looks absolutely gorgeous on this WQHD panel from ASUS. I also tested Fortnite at various settings. In DirectX 11 and 1080p Epic settings, running at turbo mode yielded around 140 frames per second. This is with DLSS turned off. If I enable DLSS performance mode, the FPS could boost to over 160 to 190 frames per second in certain areas. When switching over to 1440p resolution, the average FPS will drop to around 100 frames per second with DLSS off. Turning DLSS on, average FPS will boost to around 130 frames per second for the DLSS max quality setting, and 150 frames per second in DLSS performance mode. In DirectX 12, enabling ray tracing with DLSS to performance mode will yield around 40TP 45 frames per second in 1440p resolution and epic settings. In 1080p resolution and DLSS turned to performance mode will yield around 68 frames per second. So ray tracing is reducing frame rates to about half. Also, if you plan to do ray tracing in Fortnite, you must turn on DLSS, otherwise frame rates will drop significantly. Honestly, I am not seeing a huge difference with ray tracing. Fortnite already looks great without ray tracing. Personally, I would not sacrifice frames to get more realistic lighting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video so far, please give it a like and share the video to your friends. It would be absolutely amazing if we could hit 300 likes for this video. The STRIX G17 has 3 built-in fan profiles, and you can choose the mode you want by a simple tap on the hotkey located at the top of the keyboard. When you are not playing games or just doing light tasks such as browsing, the recommended mode is silent mode. In silent mode, the laptop is barely audible at 29 decibels. However, when you use the silent mode while playing games, this increases to around 33 decibels. Performance increases to around 45 decibels, and in turbo mode is when the laptop is at its loudest. I am registering around 48 decibels. With ray tracing and everything turned on, playing Fortnite, I am seeing CPU temperatures as high as 94 degrees. And around 85 degrees for the graphics. This is an extreme case. Games like Fortnite can still be played in silent mode with 100 frames per second, and then the CPU would stay below 80 degrees Celsius, and the GPU around 75 degrees. When doing simple tasks such as streaming a video, the CPU will stay around 35 degrees Celsius. As there are 4 exhaust vents on this laptop, most of the heat is generated around the area close to the exhaust vents. The rest of the keyboard gets lukewarm at most, and it is nothing that would bother me during longer gaming sessions. The higher-end RTX models of the STRIX G713 comes with a 90 watt-hour battery as default option. ASUS is advertising 12 hours of 1080p video playback with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth turned off. I found these claims to be quite accurate, as I got 9 hours 20 minutes in my own video playback test. This is done by streaming a 1080p YouTube video over Wi-Fi with screen brightness turned to 50%. I also set the resolution to 1080p, turned off the backlit keyboard, and enabled all the battery-saving features inside the Armoury Crate App. If you were to play a file locally on your computer, I could easily see this hitting the 12-hour mark. The battery life test is done in 1080p mode. If I was to do the same test with the panel's native 1440p resolution, the battery life will be significantly shorter. In any case, it is a fantastic battery life for a 17-inch gaming laptop, and a result that was impossible just a few years ago. Kudos to ASUS and AMD for achieving this. The 90 watt-hour battery only comes with the higher-tier Nvidia graphics configurations, from RTX 3060 and above. Anything lower than an RTX 3060 will get a smaller battery capacity as the default configuration. That's a pity, but I guess it is one way for ASUS to cut the costs in order to bring a more affordable model to the market. Playing an online battle royale match in Fortnite lasted just short of 1 hour with the 90 watt-hour battery. ASUS also claims that it takes 30 minutes to charge the 90 watt-hour battery to 50% of its original capacity. I also did this test and found the claim to be accurate. The laptop charged to 50% of its full capacity in exactly 30 minutes. ASUS has equipped the new STRIX G17 with a range of very useful ports. All the ports are located on the back side and the left side of the laptop. On the left-hand side, you will find the exhaust vent, 2 USB ports, and 1 audio combo jack. In the back, there is another USB Type-A port, 1 USB Type-C port supporting 100 watt power delivery, as well as DisplayPort, a full-sized HDMI connector, and the Ethernet port. There is support for G-Sync-enabled external monitor via the USB-C port. Finally, there is a standard barrel connector and 2 exhaust vents to the sides. On the right-hand side it looks very clean with just the exhaust vent. There is no webcam on any STRIX laptop as ASUS has shrunk the bezels around the display to just 4.5 millimeters. In conclusion, there are many things to like about the 2021 ASUS ROG STRIX laptop. While this is a refinement from last year's model, ASUS deserves all the credit for their courage to bring an all-AMD solution to the table. While competitors such as Acer, MSI, and Lenovo are sticking to safe and tried ways of delivering gaming laptops to the market, ASUS is the only company daring to be innovative and try out new things. The ROG STRIX G17 is a gaming laptop made for hardcore PC gamers. If you are looking for a 17-inch gaming laptop, the version that I would recommend would be the R7 processor, RTX 3060 graphics, paired with that 165Hz WQHD display. That would be the sweet spot configuration for this laptop. Let me know in the comments what your ideal configuration of the STRIX G17 would be. Also, I am curious about from which country you are watching this from. Post your questions in the comments, and let me know which new ASUS gaming laptop you are most excited about. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting laptop reviews. This video took a lot of time to produce, so by subscribing and leaving a comment is your best way to show your support to the channel. Thank you so much for watching this review, and I hope to see you again soon.